Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and as Independent TTRPG Month comes to a close, I wanted to share one more list of some independent tabletop role-playing games that you might want to check out. Let's roll it. Thank you to all my patrons for supporting this channel. You make a lot of things possible, and if you would like to join in, check the description below. So like last list, I have had to at least read the core rulebook of these games in order to include them on the list. Don't want to just share something by reputation. I want it to be my opinion of the game and why I think it's worth checking out. Also, like last time, I am trying to stay away from some of the larger tabletop role-playing publishers. However, on this list, I do not have any limitations on genre. It is wide open. So having said all that, let's look at the games. So the first game on this list is Open Legend, which claims to be an open source role-playing game, which is kind of true. You can download the actual source code of Open Legend from GitHub, in fact, although it is a little bit difficult to find. Even so, the core rules of the game, minus all the flavor text, are indeed open source. You can grab them and use them as you will. There currently is no standard SRD for the game because it's currently being morphed into an updated version, a little bit of updated mechanics and some added boons and banes into it. And when that gets done, the new SRD will be put out. I was hoping that would actually be done over the winter, and it's been a little longer than that. So that's probably why that's appearing at number 5 in this list. Still a really cool game though. It is a D20 system, and instead of having static bonuses in your different attributes, and there are a ton of attributes in this game, you have what are called attribute dice. So the higher your attribute, the better die you get to roll for your bonus. The other cool thing about Open Legend is that in the game, every die explodes, including the D20 that you roll for your main check. So if you explode a couple of dice, you can have massive results. This gives you a little bit of crunch inside the game, but it's not too overwhelming, and it's a lot of fun to add up those big numbers when you roll them. Now, the game is both genreless and classless, so every ability, every function in the game is described mechanically only. It is left up to the GM and the players to describe the in-game descriptions of how these different things work. And I gotta tell you, for Open Legend, this works. This is the genreless game which will allow you to switch genres on the fly in the middle of a session and rely on players to just describe now how their abilities are working in this new genre. I want to run an Open Legend campaign where we are flipping between worlds constantly because reality is breaking, and I don't have to change the character sheets. I just have to say, okay, now we're here, describe it this way, and see what players come up with. Really cool, neat idea, and when I read through the Open Legend core rulebook back in this past winter, it really captured my imagination. Unfortunately, the print rulebook for Open Legend RPG is currently out of stock. There's no real timetable for when it comes back in. It's, like I said, it's currently being edited and updated. You can buy the PDF of the current version of the game from the Open Legend RPG website. That will cost you $20. And if the pricing remains the same when the core rulebook comes back, that will be $40 to purchase off the site. That's a combination print rulebook and PDF. It's a good looking book, it is a fun game, and it's something that is worth checking out. I should also point out that all the rules are currently available on the website, and that's a great way to dive into this game and see if it's something you want to pursue. Mutant Crawl Classics is a game that I have needed to get out of my review queue for a very long time. It's just been sitting on my shelf and I need to get into it. This is a game that takes all the gonzo goodness of Dungeon Crawl Classics and gives it this post-apocalyptic twist. So all the cool things from DCC are there. If you want a 0-level character funnel where you start out as a nobody and earn your way to be an adventurer, and most of your 0-level characters will die during their funnel adventure, then that's there. It's got the cool extended set of the polyhedral dice, so you have things like a D30, which is really cool, and I think a D24. That's neat because it's a core mechanic of the game of these dice chains of rolling the different die depending on your current situation. It has gonzo mutant abilities, which take the place of spells in this game, and like the spells in Dungeon Crawl Classics, every mutant ability has its own roll table, and if you fail to use your mutant ability by rolling a natural 1, you've got to roll on your mutation table or your defect table. Something bad is going to happen to you. This is really, really cool. The game boasts cool and funky artwork, really neat character classes, patron AIs instead of deities, so there's a way to still have a cleric type class inside Mutant Crawl Classics, and as I said, all those neat funky polyhedral dice. And the back of the book also includes a starter adventure, which is the most hysterical thing I have ever read. If you are a child who grew up watching cartoons in the 70s and the 80s, you will immediately pick up on what the setting is, and you should laugh yourself silly. It's really worth checking out. So you can pick up Dungeon Crawl Classics from the Goodman Games website, and the way that I would recommend doing it is to pick up the First Time Fan Starter Kit. This includes the softbound version of the core rulebook along with the PDF. It comes with a starter adventure, character sheets, a set of their funky polyhedral dice, and the GM screen as both print and PDF. That will cost you a whopping $35. If you can get your hands on that starter kit or that first time fan kit, that is the way to go. And if you want a hardback version of the book, you can get that as a hardback PDF combo from Goodman Games for $39.99. There's a lot of good stuff in this game. This is one, really, if you're into post-apocalyptic adventuring, this is something that is worth looking at. Worlds Without Number is a latter Earth setting. Technology is mostly at about a medieval level, so you have that kind of fantasy-style gaming. Magic is recognized to be the dregs of this great art that once existed, which is currently being rediscovered. So that's really kind of cool. The game boasts some really interesting mechanics, including a cool take on a skill system. So your skills will have a level of 0, 1, or 2, and when you roll for a skill, you roll 2d6 against the challenge number, and you add your current skill level, 0, 1, or 2, along with whatever appropriate attribute modifier you can add. That total is whether or not you succeed at your skill. Simple, different, actually kind of cool. It's a nice break from everything being a D20. And I also like that the 2d6 gives you a little bit of a curve. Worlds Without Number also uses the 6 key attributes that anyone who is familiar with D&D should be familiar with. And it's just a straight 3d6 roll to see what your attribute scores are going to be. Interestingly enough, it uses a very basic form of your modifiers. You can either have a -1 or a -2 or a +1 or a +2. There is none of this +4, +3 modifier for your attribute scores. So having high attributes is not necessarily a way to assure success for your character. I find that the way to build a character in Worlds Without Number is rather fun, and it gives you a little bit of modularity. You can choose your background, a core character class, and the focus of your character class. Putting that all together will create a rather unique character that is fit for that player and allow them to run pretty much any type of character they want to play. It's really well done. But the coolest bit about Worlds Without Numbers is not necessarily the game mechanics itself, but the stuff it puts at the back of the book. There are over 100 pages that are dedicated to teaching someone how to create their campaign environment, starting from very, very small and gradually expanding into something larger. It is really well done. It is set out beautifully. It is explained clearly. And in fact, I am considering running a series on my channel, which I believe I have said before, that would create a campaign setting using the Worlds Without Number tools. It is something that I'm looking forward to. And if you are at all interested in world building or running a game or even a latter Earth basic fantasy adventure system, Worlds Without Number is something you should look at. Now, if you want to get Worlds Without Number for yourself, you can get a free PDF from DriveThruRPG that has most of what you need to run the game in it. If you want to get the commercial version, as of this recording, it is on sale for $14.99. You want to get the PDF and hardback combination, that will run you $59.99. It's a big book, it is rather gorgeous, and this is worth checking out. Into the Odd Remastered is currently published by Free League, so it doesn't quite fit my criteria of no bigger publishers. But it started out as an independent game and it's kept that flavor, so it is on this list. It's typically called an NSR game, which usually means New School Rules, and it takes place in a steampunk-like city where most of humanity lives, and it is built on top of ruins upon ruins upon ruins. And your characters are the type of people who go deep into these cavernous underground areas underneath the city of Bastion, and they're looking for ancient artifacts called arcana. It is weird, cool, and fast, and it is simple to pick up. To roll up a character literally takes maybe 3 minutes. There's only 3 attributes. You have strength, dexterity, and willpower. 3d6 rolls for each of them. Each character starts with 1d6 hit points, and if you want to know what your starting equipment is, all you do is cross-reference your highest ability score with the amount of hit points that you have, and you track them together in a chart, and suddenly you know, here's what I start with. One of the cool things about Into the Odd is if you start out with really high hit points and really high ability scores, well, your starting equipment is not going to be quite as formidable. It's a nice way to balance the game right at the start. Cool things about the game is that it's so easy to run. There are no 2-hit rules. When you say I make an attack, all you do is roll damage and you try to beat the target's armor, because that's going to be damage reduction inside combat. All saves in the game are a roll under mechanic. You roll a d20. You have to meet or roll less than your current attribute score for that save. If you do, you are okay. And that's basically it. Literally, the playing the game section in the core rulebook is 5 pages long. This is simple and fast to pick up. Now, the book is 143 pages, but don't let that fool you. First off, it's digest size, and second off, the way that it is laid out makes each of these pages extremely easy to read. You can sit down with Into the Odd and finish it in an afternoon and be ready to go. It's cool, it is fast, and it is odd. Really worth checking out. So you can get the print and PDF combination from Free League's website. That's going to currently cost you $38.23. And if you want to get the PDF only version, you can pick that up from Drive-Thru RPG for $12.74. Not going to break your bank, and it's going to have hours and hours of fun that you can play with. Now, I was first made aware of Easy D6 by Professor Dungeon Master, who was the one who called for Independent Tabletop Role-Playing Game Month. And I was encouraged to play this game by Twitter back in the before times. Easy D6 asks a very basic question. What if we took all the fun of D&D, but removed basically all the math? And that's what you get, is Easy D6. This game is fast, it is fun, it is furious, and it might be the perfect one-shot game of all time. There are no attribute scores, but that doesn't mean that your characters are carbon copies of one another, because there are a whole bunch of different abilities and skills that you can pick up that make your character different one from another, even if they follow the same hero path, which is basically your classes for the game. The rolls are really simple. If you have a boon, you roll 2d6 and you keep the higher number. If you have a bane, you roll 2d6 and you keep the lower number. If you roll a 6 during combat, that is a crit. You get to roll again. If you get another 6, then you confirm the crit and you do an extra strike of damage. And all the weapons in the game do exactly 1 strike of damage. So there's no extra rolls to determine how much damage you do when you get a hit. Really simple, really cool. It uses a neat karma technique, so you can alter your dice rolls by spending karma points, and if you miss a dice roll, you get a new karma point back. This game is a lot of fun. I have run 3 different one-shots with it at this point. I find myself falling in love with it more and more every time that I use it, and it's got a lot of flexibility and really cool mechanics. So much fun to teach because you can do it in just a couple minutes and you throw people into a world and have them go crazy. This is a game. If you don't have it, if you haven't checked it out yet, this is the game. Go pick it up and let DM Scotty know that he's created something really, really good. So you can get this at Drive-Thru RPG, and if you want the print and PDF combo, you can get a hardback book of this game for $25.50. You want to get the softback book, which is going to hold up well because it's not that thick, you can get that for $22.50. A PDF only will cost you all of $12.50. This will not break the bank, and this is something that is worth having on your shelf. Get this game. All right, so what's coming up for the channel? Well, my July semi-hiatus is over. I am back from vacation as of tomorrow, which means I can get back to my normal day job and also working on stuff for the channel without feeling like I'm working while I'm supposed to be resting. My Swords and Wizardry review is indeed coming up. I've read the book. I just need to work through how I'm going to present it for the review. Didn't want to do it this week because I wanted to take a time to rest, relax, and do a cool list again. So that's the delay for that. After that, I do have to admit that my review of Forbidden Lands is going to be pushed back a bit. And the reason why is because when I got back from my traveling vacation, I had found, as I said last week, Symbaroum waiting for me. It was a review copy sent to me from Free League. Thank you so much for this book. And I did a very silly thing. I started reading it and got sucked in because Symbaroum is a really cool game. So my review coming up after Swords and Wizardry, that's going to be Symbaroum because it's really cool and I want to talk about it with you. After that, live stream should be starting again next week. I'm not going to do one this week as I get resettled into my normal routine, but I do have at least one cool guest scheduled for August, and I'm really looking forward to having him on. So until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.